Lokati here. So, a lot of people have asked about crafting our swords. And prior to this season, we almost universally crafted Tri-Ele, crit multi, unveiled swords. And they are a little pricey sometimes, but they're very simple to craft. However, we have made some changes to the build and the gear that we use, and so our crafting is going to be a little bit different now. So let's go take a look at how to craft our sword. Now, there's essentially like 3 levels to crafting the sword. We'll talk about the first 2. The last one is very expensive. And the first 2 swords are very, very close in damage to like the perfect sword. So I really don't recommend doing anything but one of the first 2. So the first way to craft this sword is going to be to get an 84 eye level or better, either jeweled foil, spiraled foil, fancy foil, serrated foil, or elegant foil. All of these are 1.6 attacks per second, 5.5% crit chance. That's what you're looking for. Again, we want at least an 84 eye level sword. And you're going to start off here. So the cheapest craft you can do to get a really, really good sword is going to be to essence spam zeal. You're going to essence spam zeal until you get T1 lightning on the sword. Could be short, could be long. Elemental affixes all have the same weighting in each tier, and they're common, so usually doesn't take a lot. But you're going to essence spam until you have T1, or if you are on a tighter budget, T2 lightning damage on the sword. And so we got a T3 there. That's not enough. There's a T8. It's definitely not enough. There's a T7. And again, lightning damage is the only thing that matters. So spam, spam, spam your heart away until you get T1 or T2 lightning. I just rolled past 1 back there, but I don't think it was T1 or T2. Now, on average, I would say this should take somewhere around 100 essences to get your first T1 lightning. And so on average, about a div's worth of essences. Now we got our T2 lightning, but we got a ton of affixes and we can't have that many. And so we're just going to annul and try not to rip our lightning or our attack speed. We're okay with 1 bad prefix. We cannot have any bad suffixes. And here we're at. We have a bad prefix now. If you want a better sword, you can annul the bad prefix. 33% chance hit it. And you can make a better sword, or you can just sit on the bad prefix. It's fine. But ultimately, you want to get down to this. Ideally, T1 is better, but it's okay. We'll work with this sword for now. The next thing you're going to do is very simple. This is going to be, can have up to 3 crafted modifiers. It is a 2 div enchant that you need to do on the sword. And then we are going to craft strength and int plus crit on our bench. And then we're going to craft hits can't be evaded on our bench. And the sword is done if you have a bad prefix. If you don't have a bad prefix and you want to spend a little bit more money to make the sword better, we're going to be looking at Crusader Orbs. You got a 66% chance at getting a good additional prefix with a Crusader Orb. So we have lightning, attack speed, crit, and hits can't be evaded, and we Crusader Orbit. That is the worst one. So no upgrade on the sword, or minimal upgrade on the sword. Ideally, we land either the attack and weapon and lightning pin or the lightning pin. And this is a great sword. And spent 720 chaos according to whatever Craft of Exile thinks on the sword. And we made a phenomenal sword. It's very serviceable. So this is the first craft that you can do to get your sword put together. Now, the second craft you can do to get your sword put together is going to be fracturing the sword. This makes a better sword, about 15 to 25% more damage from contribution from the sword. And so the first thing you're going to need to do is buy or fracture off T1 lightning damage. Now again, if you're on a budget, you could do a T2 lightning damage, but ideally, again, T1 lightning damage, and then preferably a big roll. So something that is high in the range, because lightning damage has a large range. And so this right here, we have to undo the Crusader Crusader influence cannot be on the sword if you want to fracture it. So here we go. So we take this and we fracture this. So you either buy or make this sword. It's a spendy sword to buy. It's a spendy sword to make. So be prepared to invest somewhere between 5 and 20 div on the base to start this craft. Now once you're here, very similar in vein, we need to regal this to get it magic. We're going to go over here to essences. We're going to grab zeal essences. We're going to zeal it for attack speed. Now here we're definitely going to zeal it for 30% attack speed. 30% attack speed is absolutely worth it on this weapon. And then same thing as before, we're going to annul down. Now we ripped our attack speed right there. If you did, you would have to re-zeal it and re-annul. And we're going to come down to here again. Same as before. We're going to craft 3 modifiers on it. And then we're going to craft any suffix that you want to fill the back. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it is a crafted suffix. So we can come in here and throw like dex on it. Just throw T1 dex or throw T3 dex. It doesn't matter. So we have crafted 3 modifiers and dex. Now we're going to go and suffixes cannot be changed. We have filled suffixes, and we have an open prefix, and we have a crafted prefix and a fractured prefix. Since we only have a fractured and crafted prefix, a veiled exalted orb can only grab the crafted prefix. So we're going to hit it with our veiled orb, and then we're going to be looking for attacks with this weapon penetrate elemental resistances. Now, if you didn't get penetrate elemental resistances, you can suffixes cannot be changed again. You can scour it down. And then you can suffixes cannot be changed again. And you can veiled orb it again. You can do this any number of times to try to get attacks with this weapon penetrate elemental resistances. But this has a very high weighting, so it typically is not going to take a lot. Once we're at this point, we need to benchcraft remove our affixes back here. We need to craft 3 modifiers. We need to strength and int plus crit benchcraft. And then we need to craft hits can't be evaded. And making a sword like this, we had crafted 3 modifiers on there, I thought. Crafted 3 modifiers, strength and int plus crit, and then hits can't be evaded. Like I said, to get to this point, anywhere from 15 to 50 div, depending on your luck, the market, what's available, yada, yada, yada. But it's a very good sword. This sword can do the entire game, and you never need to replace it. Once you get to this point, there's nothing else that you need to do to the sword. The alternative craft to this would be to zeal until you have double crit modifier, crit strike, and crit multi, and then unveil suffixes cannot be changed, attacks with this weapon penetrate resistances, and do that. I was asked, well, why don't we just craft strength and int plus crit and not have to remove the crafted modifiers and then re-add them again? Because that's a 2 div cost to do that every time. The reason is if we have strength and int plus crit as a crafted modifier on there, we cannot then veil it. So we have to veil it first and then go back and craft the veiled craft on there. And that's just because that is the limitation of the veil itself. So that gives you 3 options for crafting swords. You've got a relatively cheap, a relatively expensive, and then however much it's going to cost to spam out zeals until you get double crit mods, and then unveil the front of the sword with suffixes. And that is how you make this sword. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below or come by Twitch. I am absolutely happy to help answer questions and to help you fix your character, look at your POB, teach you crafting. I think crafting is one of the most important aspects of this game, and it's also one of the most satisfying. So y'all have fun. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.